guys work every day so we can get to the yard waste pickup.
Come talk, just talk.
Good.
All right, good.
Yeah, we're 6 o'clock, so.
At this time, I'd like to call the Nashtown Council meeting to order for the purpose of the presentation of our fiscal year budget for 2020-2021. Let us pray. Lord, we just thank you and invite you into this meeting to give us your wisdom and your guidance to make the right decisions for our town and the citizens of Nashville. Amen.
Amen.
Let us stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Randy, to the manager. Do you have some words at this time?
Yeah, on your tables, you will find another 3-ring binder, nearly full. This is the proposed FY21 budget that Sam and I have come up with the help of the department heads. And from our budget retreat, you know, there were 10 priorities that the council gave us instructions to try and put into this budget. We were able to get 5. The cost of living for town employees didn't make it. The additional police officers didn't make it. The compliance officer for public works didn't make it. And there are a couple other things I can't remember right offhand. But you know, we were able to get the other priorities or things that you guys agreed that you wanted to see if we could get in the budget, put into it.
How many additional personnel?
None. Well,
3.
I'm sorry.
3 additional personnel for fire.
For fire.
All right.
But that's only if we get that SAFER grant. And we won't know that till October or November. And then at that time, we would go ahead and do that hiring. So, let me look at my budget message quick, see if there's anything else I wanted to point out. So this budget maintains the current tax levy of 58 cents per hundred, which we've had, this will be the 3rd year for it now. It increases, there's a proposed increase in here for the Gully Fire District of 3 cents to go from 12 cents per hundred to 15. And as you know, we've talked about, that will bring in the revenue we need then to do the second fire station. The vehicles that were included in this, obviously a new garbage truck, which will make it soon enough. 3 new police vehicles, 2 non-fire truck vehicles, and a sewer jet machine. We are proposing in this budget to borrow money for the purchase of those vehicles. And the reasons why: interest rates are really low and we can take advantage of the bank's money, keep ours in the bank, so to speak, and not touch ours. We truly do have a dire emergency. It's going to be tough to get cash. And if we already have it in the bank of our own, you know, the council can pull that out as you see fit and as we need, versus trying to scrounge up money to address some kind of emergency There are website upgrades and software upgrades. You know, right now with social media, there are retention requirements that the state of North Carolina requires. We're not complying with all those because we don't have the tools to do it. This would get us that. We have in here the purchase of some new financial accounting, payroll and HR software. We've been running with the same software for 13, 14 years. It's okay. It's not great by any means. It leaves a lot to be desired. So we're proposing that. It does have increases in here for recycling fees and sanitation fees. And also it incorporates a slightly different base water fee. So I guess with that,
started to kind of gear up, and we had to go back, reassess all the revenues, reassess our priorities. And so what we've come up with today is a very lean budget. No property tax increase that we're proposing. We're trying to be very conservative as far as a fund balance that we're appropriating, but it is balanced. So that's what we have for you today. Just a little bit about our budget process, how we went about this year. We got started with this back in January, just about right after Christmas break. We came and we started preparing for the budget retreat. That's when you guys let us know your visions and your priorities. And then at that time, the department heads got to work, making their requests, put some input into this budget. So you'll see that. We formed a budget team. That was myself, Randy and Lou, HR director. We met with each department head individually, went line by line, request by request. It's been a lot of work, but we feel like this is, the best we can do at this time. Every day we're getting updates for this coronavirus. We have been staying up to date on that, and we have been literally working up to the minute, making sure all those updates are incorporated in what you have in front of you today. So just a little word on the budget manual itself. It's a lot of information. It's comprehensive. It's to supplement this presentation. And in fact, throughout this presentation, the bottom of each page, you'll see page reference. So that will help you later on when you're looking through that to be able to know which page directly you can go to get to that information. All right, so to the numbers. This year we've received $13.6 million in requests. Our recommended budget is $12.3 million. Therefore, we had to reduce this budget by $1.3 million to give you the balanced budget that you have in front of you today. Comparing our proposed budget to our current year budget, it's a $1.9 million increase as opposed to our current year original budget. It's a $400,000 decrease as opposed to our current year amended budget.
Sam, maybe explain the PowerPoint. You don't have Sam's PowerPoint, or do
You do.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
I'm
there.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Is it this?
It's in the front of the book.
It's there. Yes, ma'am. I apologize.
From the book.
Stuck in that folder right here.
We're on page 4, I believe, at this time.
The other sheet.
I think you guys are spread out.
Need it now, don't we? Go back.
Everybody good? So I did want to reconcile the difference between our original budget and the amended budget that we have today for you. Our original budget appropriated $120,000 of fund balance, but our amended budget appropriates about $588,000. We've had lots of budget amendments. The largest one was a non-cash budget amendment. It was a transfer to our capital reserve fund. If you do recall, we did transfer $320,000 into our capital reserve fund. So that's just moving money from one fund to the other. So it wasn't really an expense per se, just a non-cash. Same with the enterprise fund. We had no net position appropriated in our original budget, but we ended up with $1.4 million in our amended budget today. That's because of that non-cash, largely because of that non-cash budget amendment that we did, just to clean up those old capital project funds that have already been closed out. Okay, so this slide shows you the proposed budget by fund, $7.2 million general fund, $4.4 million in the water and sewer fund. Total budget, like I said, is $12.3 million. And on this next slide, that breaks it down even further for you, so you can see the proposed budget by fund as opposed to the original budget ordinance, as well as the amended budget ordinance. So what you're looking at is in the general fund, about a $1.2 million increase as opposed to the original budget, but about a $600,000 increase as opposed to the amended budget. And in the enterprise fund, you're looking at about a $333,000 increase opposed to the original budget, and a $1.1 million decrease as opposed to that amended budget. Well, of course, the town does collect fees for a lot of our services. A lot of our departments do collect fees. This slide shows you total dollars versus town dollars. In other words, you take the money that the department collects as part of the revenue that it supports itself with, and we show you how much of the total general fund budget of $7.2 million is town dollars versus how much is fee supported. And what you see is we're proposing to earn about $2.5 million in fee-based revenue. So town dollars for that $7.1 million is only $4.6 million. Does that make sense?
Do the town dollars, would that include sales tax, property tax?
It does not. That's just general. That would be considered, well, yes, that would be considered town dollars.
Okay.
So looking at the proposed funding, what you can see and what's to be expected, public safety is our largest funding category. That's very typical of what we are required to do. Number 2 is general governmental administration, and number 3 is sanitation.
So maybe announce what page you're on as you go.
Oh, I just don't know what page I'm on.
15.
Oh, there it is.
15.
No, that's actually C page 15.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's not page 15. So in other words, you see there, like I was saying earlier, this slide corresponds to page 15 in the budget book. So in the enterprise fund, of course, water and sewer operations is 81% of the budget, whereas just the administrative piece of that is only 19%. I'd like to give you another view of what our budget consists of. Looking at the general fund, employee wages and payroll taxes make up over half the budget, but that's to be expected. You know, we require people to provide the services that we provide. Number 2 is departmental supplies and services. In the enterprise fund,
Next slide.
yeah, I'm sorry, your back's to it, that's why. In the enterprise fund, of course, it's a very different look. Departmental supplies and services make up the vast majority of that budget, and that includes the water and sewer, the water purchases, as well as those sewer treatment charges. Number 2 is going to be, looks like Interfund Transfers, which is, of course, the enterprise fund payment that is owed to the general fund every year for services provided by the general fund to the enterprise fund. Next page, sorry. Switching gears, looking at revenues now. In the general fund, as usual, our largest revenue category is your ad valorem tax, it's 34%, followed by unrestricted intergovernmental, which includes your sales tax. That's 22%. And I do want to say right here, we are budgeting very conservatively this year on our revenues.
Can I ask the
Yes,
question?
ma'am.
All right, in the past, our ad valorem tax percentage has usually been between 41 and 43%. Why is it 34%?
Well, we've got other revenue sources this year. We're increasing our the amount of capital reserves we're using, so that's considered a revenue source. So that's going to skew the number. Also, the debt service is going to be considered a revenue source, so that's going to also decrease that number. The percentage-wise. But yes, so we're actually proposing very conservative revenues this year, and we'll talk more about that in just a moment. As far as the enterprise fund, of course, 94% of the enterprise fund's revenues are fee-based. Once again, we're projecting very conservatively here. We're not really proposing any growth. In fact, all the reports that we've received up to date, are projecting a very steep decline, especially in this last quarter of this fiscal year. That decline is going to continue in the first quarter of next fiscal year. And then they are projecting, hopefully we will start to steadily rebound. But at this time, there's still a lot of uncertainty. And so we have taken the approach that we're going to be conservative with this and, prepare for the worst.
In the budget book, Sam included a report that we got from the League of Cities here just this last week, giving guidance on how to forecast revenues. And it's like a 24 page report, and it's included in its entirety here, beginning on, I think it's page 37.
They expect utility revenues to be severely reduced. So they use the word severe.
Well,
They're going to be impacted.
the revenue, it will be marked as, for accounting reasons, it will be recorded as revenue, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to collect the cash on it. So I think our collections on that will be severely impacted. Also, late fees, I'm really proud that the town did implement that policy, and we did so before the governor even mandated that. That was something that we had to do and was the right thing, but that is going to impact, our late fee collections. So.
And those aren't reimbursable by FEMA. I checked today. Lost revenues, you can't claim reimbursement for under FEMA public assistance.
So looking at major revenue sources that are included in our general fund is what we use to balance our budget. We did appropriate some fund balance, $105,000. It's a decrease of $483,000 versus your fiscal year amended budget. We are proposing a slight decrease in property tax collections, which I will go over a little bit more detail later. So we've used $2,139,000. That's what we're projecting to collect this year. We propose the use of capital reserves in the amount of $315,700. That's an increase. We're going to increase our use of PAL fund reserves. We are proposing to issue some installment debt to purchase of vehicles, which we will discuss a little bit more in just a moment. We are proposing an increase in the sanitation and recycling fees, but that is contingent on the assumption that council will approve the fee increases. However, if those fee increases are not approved, we'll have to cut out about $184,000 of that revenue projection. Same with the Gully fire tax contribution. We are proposing that will increase to a total of $581,000, but that's contingent on the county approving that increase. And at this time, they may decide not to. In the past, they usually don't go that route, but with things being the way they are, they may propose not to. And so we would have to reassess that at that time. And lastly, we are proposing an enterprise fund reimbursement. That's usual, that's typical, in the amount of $220,000. And I will discuss that more in just a moment. Once again, major proposed fee increases. We did already discuss those in the last meeting. One other area, planning and zoning, did require some various fee changes. If you'd like to see those, they're on page 27. I think in my printouts, I left out the number 27. So just put in there 27. Okay, so looking at property tax collections. Like I said, we're going to be very conservative this year with what we're projecting. Right now, we've got about a little bit over a 98% collection rate. But we're treating this as though we're in a recession. Okay, so what we did was we went back to the last recession and we looked at collection rates. And the good thing and the typical thing about property taxes, people tend to pay their house bills and their property taxes first and foremost, above all else. So that is the reason why, the reduction is only 97%, 1% reduction. So we use the 97% collection rate as opposed to the actual collection rate of 98% to balance this budget, treating this as if we are in a recession. And that's how we came up with the $2.139 million. Looking at sales tax, Now, if you see the white columns there, that's actually the information I presented you way back in January during that budget retreat. However, just last week, League of Municipalities came out with their report. They, and their report is based on everything that's been going on. And as you see, for the remainder of this fiscal year and for next fiscal year, they are predicting declines. And so these are the percentages that we use for our predictions and what we use to balance the budget.
Sam, a question. I think that I had looked at that league report, and it seemed to me that in some categories, they offered like 3 scenarios.
They did.
There was the
Conservative,
bad,
moderate.
yeah, and then the worst case. Did you?
So we use conservative.
Okay.
Now, I do want to say, reading through that report, what we're going to experience here is not going to be what the city of Raleigh experiences. And what they're saying is that the city of Raleigh is going to be severely impacted. Whereas here, smaller, our impact may not be as severe, but we just don't know. And so we're going to just be as conservative as we can. We don't want to over project,
Right.
especially with so much uncertainty.
So you went to the middle.
That's right. Okay, and so every year, the enterprise fund does reimburse the general fund for services that the general fund provides to the enterprise fund. Looking back at how those calculations have been done, looking back at how the auditors have changed and, recommended, I actually have changed that calculation this year. And so you'll see, this is just a summary of how that calculation was done. And that enterprise fund reimbursement is a little bit higher this year. It's $220,000. Looking at our enterprise fund and the major revenues that balance that fund out, we are proposing some fund balance to appropriate, a little bit over $37,000. It's a slight decrease of that $1.3 million, but however, the original budget for this current year, we had budgeted 0. So it's actually, it's a little bit of an increase. We're increasing our use of capital reserves. We are increasing our water revenue projections. However, that's based on the assumption that the council will adopt the fee increase. However, if the council does not adopt that fee increase, we'll have to eliminate that $345,000 revenue out of the budget. We have decreased our late charge projections by $20,000. And we have decreased the federal mandate. We've just eliminated that federal mandate for what we discussed at the last meeting. However, if council decides not to go that route, we will just add that $185,000 back to the budget. Once again, just to reiterate, these were the fee increases that were discussed at the last meeting. We're proposing to eliminate that federal mandate fee and replace it with a water-based fee. It's going to be a different fee in town versus out of town. And the good news is for the vast majority of our customers, which are in-town customers, it's only a $1.87 increase per month. Okay, switching gears, looking at our major expenditure increases. Now, on this list in my slide, I've included all funds, but I do encourage you to go to page 276 to 277 whenever you get, whenever you're looking back at it. What I've included in the budget manual, I've broken it down by fund and by department, and I've also explained to you how we propose to pay for each of these items, whether it be reserves, cash, debt, etc., grant, etc. So these are the major expenditure items that we have included in this budget. Non-public safety salary study, $142,000. VC3 IT service, $111,000. A website upgrade, $18,000. Financial software, $100,000. Comprehensive plan, $75,000. 3 replacement vehicles for the police, $165,000. 3 new firefighter staff at $141,000. And we did include the number in there without the grant revenue because we haven't received notice that we have received the grant at this time. Fire replacement, 2 replacement vehicles for the fire department, $105,000. Fire Station 2 capital project, I'm putting that on the books, $100,000. The garbage truck, $380,000. Some various yard waste site improvements, $35,000. The Department of Corrections lift station rehab, $75,000, which we've already gotten started. And that quick response sewer jet, which was scheduled to be replaced at this time for $62,000.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
The non-public safety salary study, those are salary increases.
Yes, ma'am. And that includes the salaries as well as all benefits, all the fringes. So that's the grand total of the effect for all funds. And in fact, in here, now I have given this page, it's too large to even fit in there. It details line by line, every employee, every fringe, everything. So that's for you to have a look at. It shows you by fund, by department, exactly what that market study looks like. Other expenditure increases. So general retirement and law enforcement retirement have both gone up this year, and in fact, you can expect those to go up, every year over the next 7 years. In fact, if you look at page 6, whenever you get to looking at it, page 67 through 72, I've included some information from the retirement fund for you to really get to look at that. Town hall lobby upgrade, $20,000. Various public works building and grounds renovations for $35,000. Library generator and awning improvements, $22,000. Clerk social media retention software, $8,800. Clerk agenda management software, $3,800. And various radios for police and fire, as well as a enclosed trailer for sewer. All of those things total a $1.7 million expenditure, all funds. Now, if you recall way back in the first couple of slides, I told you that the difference between our proposed budget and the original current year budget is about 1.9 million. So those things that I have just listed pretty much reconcile all but just under 200,000 of that. So we've remained very lean as far as our operation increases this year. It's all pretty much capital items, major purchases, things of that nature. So I did want to let you know what major requests we did not fund this year. In case council wanted to deliberate on those, change the priorities, change the order. We very regretfully were not able to include the 2% COLA. However, I do want to say that large number for that market, that salary study, were we to implement a COLA, a modest COLA year by year, once we got to that market study, it wouldn't be such a huge impact. It would just, we'd already be there. So I do recommend, in future years, once we're kind of out of what we're dealing with now, we do try to implement some type of modest COLA, at least year by year. We were not able to fund any other positions, including the police positions or the 2 additional vehicles that were going to be added for those additional positions. Public Works Environmental Compliance Officer. Public Works had requested a Cottonwood and Cypress lift station abandonment project for $1.7 million. We believe it's an important project to pursue. However, we're going to table that. We've included that in our capital reserve plan. We'll talk about that, and make more plans for that at a later time. And also a water and sewer asset and inventory assessment. This is a much needed assessment. Basically, you have a consultant come in and let you know what you have and what condition it's in. We actually applied for a grant for this. We did not receive the grant. We are going to continue to apply for that grant. Hopefully we can receive it. But even if we don't receive it, I think this is something that we do need to look into at some point.
How much would that grant pay on towards it?
100%.
100%.
150 for water, 150 for sewer. It would be very helpful.
Do you know why we didn't get it this time? What knocked us out?
Well, the fees are too low and we got too much cash in the bank.
Okay,
It's a point system.
okay, fees are going up slightly.
That's right.
Cash in bank, we don't look at that.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here are the organizations that requested funds from us. 4 organizations. What we're requesting this year, level funding, same funding that we provided them this year. We're just proposing we provide them the same level funding for the next fiscal year.
Okay, with the Boys and Girls Club.
The actual request is 2,000.
5,500 is what we've been giving them, right?
That's right. So we're proposing at this time
Same
to
thing.
maintain level funding.
That's right, okay.
Now, of course, that's up to council.
That's cool.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about our capital reserve funds. We have two of them. We've got one for the general fund, one for the enterprise fund. Remember, for the general fund, capital reserve fund, we put in an additional 320,000 in there that had been on the books for quite some time. We just went ahead and moved it over there. So we've got almost $900,000 in there. The start of this year. We're going to add 130 to it. We're proposing to use 315,000 of it. So our projected balance at the end of next fiscal year is going to be 728,000. Now, if you look at page 279 in your books, you'll see the list of all the items that are funded. They're vastly the same. We did add some items, and we did defund a couple of the items that were previously listed there. In the enterprise fund, we're going to start out with 220,000. We're going to add 190,000. We're going to use 179,000. Our projected balance is going to be 235,000. However, this is something I did want to bring to your attention. We had an old capital project fund. It was called well number 8 construction. I don't know if you recall that. We constructed a well. We had money in this fund to construct the well. We did not use all the money. In fact, we have $102,000 left over in that fund. When we went to test the well is low producing. It's also poor producing. It's really, we've had it checked out. There's really very little we can do. The project's closed. At one point, we had been talking about leaving that money in there to try to do something with the well. But at this time, it doesn't look like there's anything that can be done with that well. So what I'm proposing is either just transferring that 102,000 back into the enterprise fund, capital reserve fund, where it came from. That way we have a little bit more money to add to that, to do capital projects for the water and sewer fund. Or we create a new capital reserve fund, and we call that the water and sewer infrastructure improvements fund. So the other fund will be used for like the vehicles and the equipment. This fund will be used to do your major projects, such as that $1.7 million Cottonwood and Cypress lift station abandonment.
How much did we sink into that well?
I don't recall.
Okay.
But I don't recommend sinking anymore.
Where's it located?
It's out on Cook Road, that property out there. And I believe the town got a grant to run the water and sewer out there, and some of that could have gone to drill the well. I don't know, but as Sam said, it was not real good quality water.
Low producing.
It tested high in atrazine and some other things, which was the reason why we never put it online. And it's since been capped and abandoned.
So we have 5 wells.
We have, yes, 5 more.
So long story short, I'm proposing we put that money back in the enterprise fund, capital reserve fund, and put it to some productive use. Okay, history of our fund balance appropriation. So the blue shows what we appropriate every year. The orange shows what we actually end up using year by year. Now, this last column, you can see that we're really appropriating. We're trying to be very modest in our appropriation this year. And also what you can see is that year by year, typically, we don't use all that we appropriate. And in fact, anytime that orange line dips below the line, those are years in which we put money in the bank that year. That's general fund. So this is kind of a history of what that looks like. It did spike up a little bit at the end of 2019. That's because no major projects were really done. Now you see that it's projected to decrease slightly this year, but that's because of that transfer of that 320,000 from the general fund into the capital reserve fund. It shows as a fund balance decrease in the general fund, but really it's just moving money from one fund to the other.
What's our unassigned fund balance?
It's over 4 million. If you look in the fund balance tab, it's got that in there.
Okay,
Every
it's about
ending fund
4.2.
balance, every total fund balance for the last 10 years. Same thing for the enterprise funds, a little bit different view because enterprise, being a fee-based fund, and supposed to be a self-supported fund, there's a little bit more volatility in that. So there are times when we do have to appropriate or use more than we actually originally thought. But once again, as you see, we're trying to be very conservative this year with how much fund balance, net position we're trying to appropriate. Once again, here's a view how we did have a huge increase there in that year, but once again, we just weren't really doing any major projects. So this last slide is shows you what our debt outlook is. Like I said, we're proposing to issue some installment debt for the purchase of those vehicles. Now would be a good time to do that. I've budgeted that over a 5-year period at a 3.25% interest rate. However, I do strongly believe that we can get that interest rate way down below that. And so this number would be, this is just a very conservative number, but I do think that we can probably get that quite a bit lower. And so you can see that the payment on that would be about $141,000 per year over the next 5 years. Our capital project fund, like we had discussed before, we're looking to do some installment debt on that over 20 years. We're not looking for a payment this year. We're not looking to do that, to actually issue that debt until next year. This year in our water and sewer fund, that CFE infrastructure loan, it's been on the books for several years. We're gonna have our last payment this year. So that'll go off the books. And also we had a loan on a sewer jetback. It was a 10-year loan, and we've got 4 more years to go on that.
The 9,000, that's a bypass pump.
I believe so.
Okay.
Interest-free loan.
All right.
And that's it. Any questions?
I did put a ledger sheet of paper on your desks. It just shows at the various rates of water usage, what the proposed fee increase that we have built into this proposed budget looks like. And as Sam pointed out, it amounts to $7.41 per account. So because it's a flat fee, the more water you use, the more sewer you send down, it doesn't change that. It's a fee increase on the water. We have that federal mandate of $6. That would go away, and we replace it with a flat fee of $7.41.
So the net increase is what?
For the whole year,
What's it? We get a monthly thing.
it's $1.87.
Okay.
So the $6 goes away, the $7.87 goes on. So it's $1.87.
And then it also shows the increase in the sanitation. We're at 14. We're proposing to take that monthly fee to $18.78, and that will help us out with our yard waste expenses, which we're going to have going forward. And then the recycling, there's a 76-cent increase per month on the recycling, going from $4.50 to $5.26. So all those fee increases added up total $7.41 per month.
I do want to let you know, for free, we have got a consultant that's going to come in from the NCRWA, or Rural Water Association, and they're going to also have a look at our fees, our water and sewer fees, and crunch the numbers and give us their feedback. So we're going to get working on that pretty soon as well.
Now this shows only in-town residents. Obviously, the out-of-town, they'll get garbage, they don't get recycling. Most of them don't have sewer, they simply have water.
Are there any questions? I guess most of you are like I am. You've just got to take it home and study it and chew on it and study it some more. But Thank you so much, Sam, for presenting.
See this, we only have two of them sitting in here. But based on what we've got, these expenditures and stuff, there's a lot of new money that we've got to come up with this year for different things. And saying that, you didn't all get exactly what you asked for. But I hope you can understand and take it back to your employees that work under you and explain to them if they are privy to this information. Explain to them why they didn't get what they did. And we've been able to do pretty good in past years to put us where we are now, but hopefully next year and satisfy what you need. But my only concern is, are the department heads, and I ask you this, Randy, are the department heads, are they able to work with these budgets?
Yes.
They can. That's my only concern.
The point is, we may not have a choice.
No, right,
And what revenue we get is what we'll have to work with.
yeah.
Mhm.
And when you look at 500,000 people applying for unemployment at the state level,
Don't
those
expect
are real numbers.
a whole lot coming from the state. None.
But I mean, that trickles down to us too.
It does.
That's a lot of work, Sam.
Lot to digest, but
for all
a
that
lot
you
of work was put
together.
into it.
I know what it takes to do this kind of thing, and that's tremendous.
I don't know what it takes and don't want to know,
I do want
but I just look at the raw numbers.
one little thing. So I don't know, Lee Brown's wife, she actually did the artwork.
I was gonna
did?
ask you.
Front.
Yeah.
Oh,
Did that?
Lee Brown's wife.
Oh.
And I thought that was pretty nice.
Amazing. I hit her up a couple of months ago to get a copy of it. I love it.
You did.
Yes.
Very good.
If there are no other questions, do I hear a motion that we adjourn?
So then,
Do I hear a second?